Hi guys, what's up? If you've been watching my videos, you know that recently I built an ultra budget gaming PC capable of playing Fall Guys for less than £20. If you haven't seen it, it's going to be here. Now, as much as this build worked for Fall Guys on its lowest settings, I'm no cowboy builder, I wouldn't sell this, it's an absolute potato. I generally use Fortnite as a benchmark on my builds, and it's not even capable of playing that on its lowest settings. So I'm going to level this build up, get it ready for the marketplace. It should be a breeze, all the bones are there. It just needs a little bit of TLC. So please, settle in, join me on this journey on what could be potentially my easiest flip ever to take this from Fallout Guy's bean to legitimate gaming setup. I'm Kyle, and this is PC Flippin'. Okay, so to recap from the last video, I picked up this PC for £10, threw in a spare hard drive and graphics card, and it ran Fall Guys at some pretty potato settings. My minimum requirements for selling a gaming PC nowadays is that it has to be able to play Fortnite, so in this case it means upgrading the processor to an i5, installing a better graphics card, and adding more RAM. My go-to budget processor on this chipset is the i5-3470. They can be picked up from CX for around 20 quid, and as always, you get the 2-year warranty. This is always a great selling point to throw in conversations with potential buyers. For the graphics card, I had a tough decision to make as the power supply in this build did not have any 6 or 8 pin connections. Do I go through the hassle of replacing the power supply so I can throw in a decent budget GPU, something like a 270X, or do I try and hunt down a modestly priced graphics card that does not require that external connection? Well, actually, I was super lucky on this one. After I finished editing the Fall Guys on a budget video, I was getting ready to head for bed and I decided to have one last scroll on the Facebook marketplace. I'm glad I did, as I came across a GTX 645 for £30. I messaged with an offer of 20, he accepted, and I shot round there to pick it up. And amazingly enough, as I got back in my car, another seller messaged me back about a monitor for a tenner, and he asked if I was available to pick it up that night. I do love it when a plan comes together. And for the RAM, I had a bunch of DDR3 sticks laying around, so I just swapped out the 6GB in there for 8GB. This is the bare minimum I'd recommend for Fortnite nowadays. Did I mention this was the easiest flip ever? Well, I lied. The processor RAM went into the build first, no issues. Then I put the graphics card in, no signal. Took it out, reseated it, still the same. I figured it must need a BIOS update, so I went online to go to Foxconn's website, and guess what? Doesn't exist anymore. Looked online, and every post was a few years old, all pointing to their support site, which also didn't exist. I was losing hope until I found a post on Reddit where someone pointed to a site which had the BIOS that I needed. The only thing is that the BIOS name didn't match up with the one currently installed. Everything else was matching up, but it wouldn't take the latest BIOS when I tried to update it. The BIOS that was on there was some kind of proprietary lockdown version, yuck. Luckily I found some commands online and I decided to force it on. I definitely would not recommend this as it could completely brick the motherboard. I'd only paid a tenner for this PC so far, so I didn't really have much to lose. Plus, get to throw it out the window. Anyway, PC turned off and on a few times until eventually it came back on and stayed on. Weirdly enough, this forced me to reinstall Windows, but no problem. So with everything installed, I think it's time to run some benchmarks and we'll see what this, let me just tally up, £50 PC is now capable of. Before we jump into the results, a couple of things you may have noticed. I swapped the RAM out. I was having some issues with Fortnite and the textures loading in. It's quite a common problem at the moment. I figured I'd try some faster RAM. I think it made a difference. It could have just been an absolute fluke. And also I've done the whole thing at 900p instead of 1080p. First of all, it was more that monitor that you saw that I'm going to pair it with. I had that. That was another one that I bought for a tenner too. That one was only 900p, and just purely the graphics card is quite a weak graphics card. So the GTX 645 is apparently like a rebranded OEM version of the GTX 660. The guy that I picked it up from said that he had it in like an old kind of HP gaming pre-built system. But I mean, for 20 quid, it's not so bad really. So from looking at the results of all the games, you'll see everything's been pretty much a GPU bottleneck, with the exception of Fortnite, which is just it requires an absolute beast of a PC to run well at the moment, and also Valorant, which likes a faster CPU. I didn't really want to push it too much in the graphics settings. Also with Fall Guys as well, this game seems to be capped at 60 frames a second, but with the results there, I mean, it was completely playable. Didn't really notice any difference, and I'd still suck at the game. Nothing's going to change that. So what I could have done different is I could have brought an SSD, but I wanted to get this video wrapped up. But when I sell it, I'm going to put an SSD in, and also keep that 500 gig laptop drive in there just as like the games and data drive. I also could transplant it into a gaming case, but in terms of keeping the cost down low, the whole point of it is like a super budget PC system, gaming system that, I don't know, someone might buy for their kids. Don't want to spend too much money, so I think me not having to include that 20 quid extra for a cheap gaming case, I'll just keep that cost down, and then the sale is going to be more likely and probably quicker too. In terms of upgradability for someone that buys this PC, you've got the, if you want to put a better graphics card in, I mean, we can go down the route of not having to buy another PSU, and you could get something like a 1650. I think they're currently like 120 quid. It's not too bad, but even then you'd want to upgrade the processor too. On this chipset, you're kind of really limited to, say, like an i7 3770. They're still pretty good. I mean, in my main build that I've got here at the moment, I've got a 4770, and I don't really run into any CPU bottlenecks. Then again, the games that I play, it's probably not going to be an issue anyway. When I sell this, I'm going to pair it with that £10 900p monitor that I've got there. It's in pretty good shape. And I also picked up a mouse and keyboard for, I think it was those two particular were a £5. So for the final flip, we're looking at 65 quid, probably a £5 for a Windows 10 key, so 70. And I'll be honest, I could probably easily sell this for 150 quid, so that'd be a nice £80 profit there. So overall, I haven't been too surprised by the results. The only thing we really found out is that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is not really CPU demanding at all, which is good in the sense that if you don't have a great PC, as long as you have a decent enough graphics card in it, then it's going to run great. Thanks again for dropping by. Please feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any ideas for videos, leave a comment. And yeah, looking forward to making another video. See you guys soon.